At first, people thought it was fake. The sky over Tampa didn't just light up, it exploded. Gold streaks ripped across the darkness, followed by waves of deep purple bursts that seemed almost too perfectly timed to be real. It looked like the kind of finale you'd expect at the end of a global award show, not something random in the middle of a night. And then came the voice, clear, steady, effortless. Jungkook, not through a screen, not from a clip online, but live, echoing through the open air like it didn't even belong to one place. It cut through the sound of fireworks like it was nothing. That's when confusion turned into disbelief, because this wasn't a concert. It was just a rehearsal. And somehow, that made it even more insane. Over at Raymond James Stadium, what was supposed to be a simple test run turned into something people across the city couldn't ignore. The fireworks didn't come in short bursts. They didn't feel like technical checks. They were precise, massive, layered, and almost cinematic. For nearly 2 full minutes, the sky kept detonating in gold and purple, reflecting off buildings, cars, and even the streets themselves. People who had no idea BTS was even in town started stepping outside just to see what was going on. And those who did know, they were already losing their minds. Videos started flooding social media within minutes. You could hear the reactions in real time. People laughing, screaming, and some just completely silent because they didn't know how to process what they were witnessing. One comment kept repeating itself in different forms. If this is a rehearsal, what are they hiding for the real show? And that question spread fast because deep down, everyone watching knew something wasn't normal here. This wasn't just preparation. This was a preview of something much bigger. But what made it even more surreal wasn't just what people saw. It was what they heard. Miles away from the stadium, far beyond where you'd expect sound to carry clearly, something strange started happening. People began recognizing a voice. Not just any voice, Jungkook's. There were fans who weren't even trying to find BTS that night. Some were walking back from dinner. Others were heading home, scrolling on their phones, completely unaware of what was happening nearby. And then they stopped mid-step because, out of nowhere, that voice reached them. Not faint, not distorted, but clear enough to make them turn their heads. One person described it as hearing something familiar in a place it shouldn't be. Another said it felt like reality glitched for a second, like the world suddenly overlapped with something unreal. And that's the thing no one expected. It didn't feel like a concert rehearsal. It felt like an experience leaking into the real world. For a moment, the entire city felt connected by something invisible, a sound wave carrying more than just music, something emotional, something almost surreal. But as powerful as that moment was, it was nothing compared to what came next. Because while fans were still processing what they had just witnessed, the numbers started coming out, and they didn't make sense at first. Estimates began circulating about the economic impact of BTS arriving in Tampa. At first, people assumed it would be big, of course it would, but no one expected this. Projections suggested that the concerts could generate somewhere between $800 and $900 million. Not revenue for BTS alone, but for the entire city. Hotels, restaurants, transportation, local businesses, everything connected to the sudden wave of tens of thousands of fans flooding into one place at the same time. And suddenly, what happened at the stadium earlier that night started to feel like a signal, a warning almost. Something huge was coming. Hotels near the venue didn't just fill up, they disappeared, fully booked days in advance. And the prices didn't just rise, they skyrocketed. Rooms that normally cost a few hundred per night were suddenly listed at over $1,500 and still selling out. At that point, logic stopped applying because fans weren't hesitating. They weren't comparing prices. They weren't backing out. If anything, they were doubling down. One viral post summed it up in a way that spread quickly across platforms. Money comes back. This moment doesn't. And that mindset explained everything. This wasn't just a concert people wanted to attend. It was something they felt they had to be part of. Something once in a lifetime. Something bigger than just music. As that realization spread, another layer of the story started unfolding. For many fans, the experience didn't begin with fireworks. It didn't begin at the stadium. It began the moment they arrived in Tampa. One fan shared a story that instantly caught attention online. They had just landed after a long flight. Nothing unusual, just another trip, until the announcement came through the cabin speakers. But it wasn't a standard welcome message. The crew specifically acknowledged passengers who had traveled for BTS. They welcomed ARMY, not in a casual way, not as a joke, but with intention and warmth. And for the people on that plane, something shifted in that moment because, suddenly, this trip didn't feel like traveling to an event. It felt like entering a shared space, something collective, something understood without needing explanation. One fan described it as being recognized without saying a word. That feeling didn't stop at the airport doors because once they stepped inside, it became even more visible. Purple everywhere. Not overwhelming, not forced, but present. Subtle details that told a bigger story. Airport staff wearing purple ribbons, some had ties, others had small accessories pinned to their uniforms. Individually, it might not seem like much, but together it created something powerful, a quiet message. We see you. And for fans who had traveled across countries, across continents even, that kind of welcome hit differently. It wasn't just about the music anymore, it was about belonging. And then came one of the most unforgettable visuals of the entire experience. As night fell, the city revealed something else. The Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino Tampa, one of the most iconic locations in the area, shifted its entire exterior lighting to purple, bright, unmistakable, and impossible to ignore. It wasn't subtle. It wasn't small. It was a statement. And just like the fireworks earlier, it didn't feel like something done halfway. It felt intentional, deliberate, almost symbolic. One fan staying there shared a moment that quickly spread online. They said that lying in their room, watching that purple glow reflect across the windows, felt emotional in a way they didn't expect. Not overwhelming, not dramatic, just quiet, like being part of something bigger than yourself without needing to explain it. That's when everything started to connect. The fireworks, the voice in the distance, the packed hotels, the airport welcome, the purple lights. Individually, they were impressive, but together they told a completely different story. This wasn't just about a group performing in a city. It was about impact, real, measurable, undeniable impact. Cultural, emotional, economic, and somehow all of it happening at the same time. BTS didn't just arrive in Tampa, they transformed it for a few days. The city shifted, its energy changed, its rhythm adapted, and everything moved around one central moment that hadn't even fully happened yet: the concert itself. And if the rehearsal was any indication, then what was coming next wasn't just going to be big, it was going to be unforgettable. Because when a rehearsal already feels like a grand finale, you know the real show is operating on a completely different level. So the question isn't whether it's going to be impressive. The question is, how do you even prepare for something like that? And maybe the truth is you don't. You just show up and let it take over. Because when the sky turns purple, it's not just a color, it's a signal. Something powerful is happening. And whether you're inside that stadium or standing miles away, frozen in place, hearing a voice you recognize instantly, you're part of it, even if just for a moment. And sometimes that moment is everything.